Hello there, guys. Today we're going to get into the second part of Stewie. We're going to get into the body more. So we're not going to go into the clothes or the shading quite yet, but we will go into how to create the body, those hands. Hands are tricky, I know, and the legs, stuff like that, with a nice geometry, of course. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's worry about the rest of the geometry now, okay? I promise the face is, well, one of the difficult parts. Also the hands, don't get me wrong. Alright, so let's select Stewie and let's see how we're going to be creating this neck, okay? The neck of the head. It is basically connected to the back of your head, okay? So that's quite smooth, and the front part you have your chin going on. Stewie doesn't really have a chin though. And well, there's basically like this little gap at your below your chin, but in the end, the lower parts of your head will be connected into that neck. I hope you could see that. Otherwise, just check your own mirror. So we want it to be right about there. Okay, so I'm gonna worry about that next. Side view, of course. We're going to extrude this, scale this down a little bit, rotate this a little bit, move this down a little bit. So this is going to be the neck part. Okay, so this is looking quite decent, and I'm going to extrude this one more time, but just a little bit and only in the Z-axis. So lock that there, press S, set 0, and then I'm going to go back to my loop tools and turn this into a circle, because I want the neck to be a circle, right? So this is a circle, and now I'm going to go back to my side view, move this a little bit more inwards and down, and just extrude this once again. There we go, just a little bit. All right, so now we have a neck, and I'm going to select 2, hold shift, select this edge loop, press G and X, move that back a little bit right there. Beautiful. And I'm going to select this edge right there, press double G, move that a little bit to the right. Select this one, press double G and move that a little bit closer there as well. Right, just so we don't have a lot of that hard kind of turn in geometry there. Okay, that's looking decent. We can actually move these edge loops. So this edge loop, select that by holding shift, and this one a little bit to the right. So press G and X. There we go. And this one too, GX. Right, so this is looking quite decent. Of course, if you would have this head and neck, you will always have a very strong force on your neck, because the face, the part of the face, the mass of the face that is actually in front of the neck is quite large, which means that you will always fall forward a little bit. But it's a cartoon character, I can't help it. They made it like that. Alright, so let's just press G in sculpt mode and just move this down a bit more, so we actually have more of that rounding going on here. I think that's fine. Let's go to front view. Let's see how that looks. I want to move this in a little bit. I want the neck to be a little bit thinner. I like how that looks. Stewie in the reference image doesn't really have a neck, and I can't remember ever seeing Stewie's neck anyway. So I'm not sure what it looks like. So I guess we have the control of that. We can make that ourselves, which is quite fine. All right, so that is nice, and I'm now going to worry about the body. So I'm going to go to object mode, and I'm not going to create the body out of this geometry, simply because I want to have freedom when I create the body. So I'm going to make that as a separate mesh. So Shift A, mesh, cube. There we go. GZ, move that down and add a subdivision, a modifier of 3 once again. All right, there we go. Press GZ, move that so it overlaps with the neck a little bit. There we go. Press Tab, Alt Z, and let's worry about this. Right, so in general, a human body has like a chest area and an abdomen area. All right, so the first thing I do is create an edge loop right there, left click, escape. This is going to be like the split between the chest area and the abdomen. And for Stewie, the abdomen area is actually a little bit wider, a little bit bigger than the chest. So select your chest area. So press 1 and select those corners, and just press S. Scale that down a little bit. Select this one, scale that down a bit too. Select these, GZ, scale that up a little bit. Next up, for the legs, we need 2 separate faces. Otherwise, we only have one face at the bottom. We can't really create legs out of that, right? We just can't. So we have to add another edge loop there, just so we can actually create legs that split there, right? Now we have to smoothen that out a little bit, of course. So what I'm going to do is press S and X to move that out a little bit. And I'm also going to press S and Z. So scale that there a little bit. Oh, S, Z. There we go. Looking quite decent, if you ask me. And now we can just delete the right part of that mesh and add a mirror modifier and swipe that in front of the subdivision and set this axis to Y. There we go. Beautiful. Now we just have to move this down, for example, to make it more rounded. We can move this in if we want that connection to be a little bit stronger there. Move this out, for example. There we go. There we go. And now for the side view, let's see. We have a bit of a weird shape, but I'm going to start by moving the entire mesh back a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to actually try and get this a bit closer together. There we go. Because the front part is usually quite flat. The chest may stick out a little bit, but for Stewie, I think it doesn't really. And for the back, I'm going to move this in a little bit to get that natural shape of the spine. And I'm going to move this a little bit more down, so we get a bit more of those roundings there as well. Right, something like that. Beautiful. All right, move this a little bit more out, perhaps. Let's see. You can see me tweaking this a little bit. Oh, there we go. I think this looks fine. If you think the body's too long, just move things up a little bit. Right? Doesn't matter that much. Now let's go to object mode. There we go. Shade that smooth. Let's see. Is this the abdomen I want? I don't want Stewie to be exactly the same shapes, the same dimensions. I want to create it just a little bit different, just because I think it's fun. And that is the freedom we have. So why not? Now we're going to worry about those arms. Arms are quite easy. What I'm going to do first, though, is select these two faces. Press S and X. Just scale this down a little bit. Like that. That's looking nice. All right. And this is going to be the face that I'm going to turn into an arm. All right. And we're going to do this exactly the same as we did for the neck. Well, not exactly, but close. I want this face. And I'm going to extrude this a little bit first and rotate it a little bit as well. So this is going to be like the shoulder. Right, the shoulder connection. Scale it down a little bit, perhaps. So we want to think about geometry already. Where does stuff have to bend, for example, and where does it have to rotate, right? So your shoulder rotates a lot. You can see me waving my arm and stuff. And our elbow has to move as well. Same for the wrist. So we need a little bit of geometry there already. Otherwise, we won't be able to rig it at some point as well. Right, so this is the shoulder pretty much. And I'm going to extrude. Well, I'm going to turn this into a circle first. Go to the loop tools, select circle. There we go. Let's rotate this so it's nice and straight. There we go. And now we can just extrude this one more time. There we go. And this is going to be the entire arm with a little bit of a scaled down end there. And I'm going to press Ctrl R and an edge loop there. Okay, and then just scale this into the thickness that I want the arms to be. We can scale this one down a little bit too. Move that up a little bit perhaps. We can also move these vertices up a little bit more. There we go. Alt Z. Make that nice and smooth. There we go. All right. This is nice. Those are the arms. I'm going to press tab. And let's see. We may have actually need a bit more geometry in that shoulder joint. We may need something like that. So we actually have a decent geometry to work with. And I'm going to move this a little bit more outwards. And this more as well. There we go. So we have a nice smooth looking starting point of those arms. And we're making this in T-pose in case we want to rig this later, right? And we will. So we are going to rig Stewie and we need some kind of a T-pose because that is way easier to weight paint. So this is looking fine for the starting shapes. And now we're going to worry about those hands. Hands are annoying, guys. They are. So how are we going to turn a square into fingers? Well, quite easy actually. And the best way to do this is I'm going to just tweak this a little bit, make it a bit smaller. Think about the hand, right? What are the shapes? I will hold my hands in front of the camera a little bit, right? So we have the palm of the hands, right? That's basically going to be a shape we can extrude out of a square, right? So if I extrude this, we actually have, well, pretty much the basic shapes, which are 4 corners of the arm. It may be a little bit too small, so we may have to move that out a little bit there. Beautiful. And I'm going to add an edge loop right away, Ctrl R, to just move that in front of the wrist. Just like that. Okay. Beautiful. Now, how do we make sure we can extrude fingers out of this? Okay. We only have one face, the front face, but we want fingers, right? So think about that a little bit. Stewie has 3 fingers and a thumb. Okay. So we need 3 faces to work with. And that is quite easy to make from a quad. All we need to do is extrude this and scale this down in the x-axis. You see what I'm doing? All right, so now we have one face here on the side for a pinky, for a middle finger, and for a pointer finger or an index finger, right? And we can even select these outer faces or edges, sorry. Press GY, move that out and press SX. You see, it is quite easy to really just make one face into 3 faces by just extruding and moving those edges a little bit. All right, so I'm going to select this one, press SX, try to get all of these faces into pretty much the same shape. And I'm going to select these 3 top ones, these 3 bottom ones. Oh, there we go, and press SZ. I'm going to try and turn this into a little square for each finger, right? Something like that. And scale that a little bit more, perhaps. There we go. Looking quite decent. We can even press double G on this one to move it a little bit more to that Y direction. There we go. So now we have 3 faces that are going to be perfect to turn into fingers. All right, so let's press numpad 7 to go to top view. Press I and I again, just so we have an inset of a separate face individually. Something like this. And let's just move this into the Y direction a little bit. Scale that up a little bit as well. There we go. So those are the starting points of all of our fingers. So let's go to top view and we can just extrude these. There we go. Let's see how long we want these fingers to be. Actually, this entire hand may be a bit big, but we can scale that down. Don't worry. And we can press S and X to just scale that in the X-axis a little bit. There we go. Let's select the middle one, press SX, scale it down a little bit. So now we have 3 fingers that look quite similar in shape. Beautiful. Now, if you want this to be perfectly round, you can just select that end face and turn that into a circle and just make sure to rotate that afterwards. Same for this one. They're going to be circles, beautiful circles. This one as well, make that a circle. Beautiful. And make sure to just rotate this into, well, perpendicular to the axis of the finger, pretty much. Something like that. Middle finger is fine. And the pinky, we need to rotate that a little bit as well. Maybe even turn it a little bit to the outside there. Something like that. Beautiful. Now we need some geometry there, of course. So we can bend it as well. Just think about how many bending points you need, pretty much. We need one here, one there. So we can just press Ctrl R and scroll up once to add 2 edge loops. Double G there and 2 there, right? That's basically all we need to add some nice looking fingers. All right, I used to be very bad at creating fingers, but once I finally knew how to actually turn faces into multiple faces, it actually got a lot easier. All right, now I'm going to add an edge loop here. There we go, and we can scale this a little bit down or up, depending on what you want the shape of your hand to be. There we go. And well, there we go already. We can now just make this a bit smoother if we want that to be by selecting the edge loop and pressing double G. And now I'm gonna try and think about that thumb, right? If you look at your hand, once again, best way to really make a hand is by looking at reference images or looking at your own hand, which is what I usually do, right? You have like this little extra room that turns your index finger into your thumb right there. All right, so it isn't starting at the same line as the rest of your fingers. It's starting more down at the start of the palm of your hand there, right? So this is actually a very nice face that we can turn into a thumb. All right, so extrude that and just try to make that corner a little bit, just like that. Let's turn this into a circle from the start. And let's just make sure it doesn't intersect with our mesh. There we go. So that is going to be like the first hard corner, this little bump there. All right, so we have, well, pretty much the same thing we did for the shoulder joint. Now extrude this again. And that's going to be like this corner. And then we're just going to extrude it one more time for the tip. Right? Beautiful. Now just make the shape of your thumb into whatever shape you're actually looking for. All right. And now what I'm going to finish up with is just smoothing that out a little bit, right? Because this is a very smooth connection into the arm. There. So I'm going to select this edge, press double G. Actually, the entire edge loop is fine. Double G, move that there. And then we can select this one, double G, and move that a little bit there as well. All right, and now if we go to top view, and if you look at these two faces, or these three, for example, we can actually see, actually, let me first get this one, and we're going to press double G, move that a little bit more there. So this connection with the pinky is a little bit smoother as well. There we go. And now we have the shape of the hand, which basically matches those four corners that we have here. All we did is add an extra, pretty much an extra edge loop there, just so we can extrude the thumb from that face there, right? So that's quite the way that I try to think about creating hands. Okay, so if you think this corner or the thumb needs to start a little bit sooner, you can just select this edge loop, press double G, move it more to the left, for example, there, and then we have it more to the top there, right? Double G will just basically move that entire part a bit more. Now we can select this one, do the same, for example, move that in a bit closer. There we go, right? It's just tweaking at this point. Okay, I think that is looking fine. Now, if you want to scale the entire hand down, just go to top view, press Alt Z, press 1, select this entire part of the hand and just scale that down a little bit. Right there. Beautiful. Alright, I think that is in proportion with the body. Maybe the arms are a little bit long, so press G and Y. Select this one, double G. There we go. Elbow. Right, it's looking quite decent. Now think about how you want things to bend. I said it before, we may need extra geometry, right? If we don't apply a subdivision modifier, we don't have enough geometry to bend this. Alright, you can bend it, but it's not going to be like a hard bend in the elbow at that point. Okay, so what we need is just a set of extra edges that are basically going to take care of the bending there. Right, so just add some geometry in places where you want bending to happen. We did it for the shoulder, we did it for the elbow already, and we may also do it for the wrist one more time, just like that, okay? Just so we have some additional geometry at those elbow joints. Right, and to do those legs, I'm actually going to inset that face first, because if we now extrude this, we have like a weird connection at the center, right? It may work for baggy pants, stuff like that, but usually you have a little bit of a flat area in between, right? So I'm going to inset this first, so press I, inset that, and just move that with the G a little bit out there, so it starts a little bit more from the side. Beautiful. Now let's extrude this one more time, there we go, and let's just turn this into a circle first, and scale that down, alright, because I want this to be nice and circular pretty much. Beautiful. Now, press Alt Z. What I'm going to do is select these two faces there. And I'm going to move this more out. So we actually have a bit more of a hip shape going on there. Alright, a hip shape. Beautiful. This one, you can even move that up a little bit and outside a little bit as well. And then we can select these two and move those in a little bit more. So we actually have a little bit of a bump there for the hips. Now we can select that face of the leg and just extrude that straight down. E, and then just lock it to the Z. Let's move this down. Don't worry about the roundness of the leg we have. I was pointing at my screen, you can see that. Press SZ0, there we go. And now we can just move this a little bit more inwards, and we can select these four corners, move them a little bit inwards too. And now we actually have some legs that are actually connected to our body quite nicely. All right, let's select these two there. And let's just move them a little bit more inwards, right? So it looks just a little bit nicer. There we go. And we can move this one a little bit with double G. Make it a little bit smoother. Just a little bit. There we go. This one too, perhaps. Here we go already. Nice. This one too. Right, so it's basically just tweaking the geometry a little bit by bit right there. All right, looking quite all right. Now I'm going to press Alt Z. I'm going to move this entire part down a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to move these two vertices a little bit down as well. And these two as well. All right, so I'm just tweaking the shapes a little bit. Things that I see I want to have different. And there we go. Let's go to sculpt mode and just see if we can tweak this a little bit better. Oh, what's happening? We need clipping enabled at least. There we go. All right, so the legs, moving this up a little bit. We can hold shift to smoothen things out if you think you need it. Sometimes it helps to just smoothen it out one time. To see how it smoothens out your vertices, and it works quite nicely. You go to side view. Make sure that the legs are straight underneath your character, so it doesn't look like he's actually falling all the time. All right, that's a nice thing to do. I'm gonna move this out a little bit just to create some kind of a bump area there, you know, some kind of curve. Here we go. Let's go to the back view actually. Let's see how that looks. Quite decent. Maybe move this vertex down a little bit. I can see it. Let's just do it by hand there. There we go. And we may even have to add another edge loop there, just so we have some more work we can do with this shape. Right, there we go. That's looking more round. I like that better. Right, let's go to front view. Let's see. We may have to just smoothen this out a little bit now, because we added another edge loop, of course. So let's just move this more in. Here we go. Not bad at all. This one too. And let's move this one a little bit more out. Like that. Isn't that nice? Alright, so now we have a nice connection to those legs. I'm going to hit Ctrl R. This is going to be like the knee area. This one can actually move a bit more up. Knee area. So I want, let's just make 3 edges there. Knee that can bend like the elbow there. Beautiful. Alright, now for the feet. I'm not gonna make separate toes because we're making Stewie with the shoes, right? I have never really seen Stewie without shoes. I think I'm not sure how it looks. I don't know how Family Guy looks without shoes, but I don't think it matters. We're gonna make him with shoes anyway. So select this bottom face. This is going to be the shoe. Let's think about how we can make that. It's quite easy. All we need to do is just move this to where we want the bottom, the sole of the sole. The bottom part of the shoe to be, right? A little bit more down there. Hit Ctrl R and just add an edge loop, right? So this is going to be an edge loop. Beautiful. And then this is what we're going to extrude, right? So go to side view and just extrude that there. And just lock that to the x-axis. Make it not too big. Something like that, perhaps. Right there. And then we hit Ctrl R to add an edge loop and move that close to the shoe there. Now we want an edge loop at the bottom here as well. Because, well, it is a shoe, so we need a nice hard corner. And that's already looking quite decent. Wow, excuse me. And now we can just select something here, right? So we can select these vertices and just move them out a little bit to the left there. Beautiful. And, well, we can round this up by adding another edge loop. And moving the 3 vertices there a bit more to the side. So we can get some more roundness there. Same for the inside. Just move that a little bit there. Same for the front part of the shoe. Well, we don't really have geometry there, but we can just move this vertex, or sorry, this edge a bit more to the right. There. And this one too, if we want. Right. So just press G and X. Move that there. It's a nice rounded shoe. Okay, so once we're going to work on the actual clothing and stuff, you'll see why we do this. It's going to add a lot of ease of use there. I'm going to move this out a little bit. So I think for the basic shapes of Stewie, this is quite nice. You can see we don't have the proportions of Stewie. the head in the cartoon Stewie is a lot bigger. We can scale that up if we want, right? You can see it gets back to those original proportions way quicker, and actually I like that. So that's another reason to make your head separate, right? You can change the proportions on the go. Right, if you want to connect this head to the body now, let's worry about that. Okay, I'm gonna move this up. I think we have a too long neck, so I'm just gonna delete the entire bottom part here, and we wanna create a hole there anyway, so delete those faces. There we go, and we can just move this up with double G. There we go. So how do you connect two separate objects? Well, first things first, you want to have them in the same geometry. So go to object mode, hold shift, select them both, and make sure that the modifiers are exactly similar for both parts. Okay, so we have a mirror modifier at the body, so apply that. Now for the face, the head, sorry, we have 2 modifiers, and for the body we have 3. Okay, so let's set the body to 2 and see if it's still smooth enough for us. It is still smooth and nice. Okay, so before we apply, we don't actually are going to apply that, but we are going to think about if we need some more geometry, because of course we have a spine that's going on later, so we need some more geometry in the abdomen area. So I'm going to add an edge loop there, just so we have a bending point. Okay, that's pretty much all I'm going to do for now. And I'm going to select my body, hold shift, select my head. Modifiers are the same, so a subdivision of 2, and you can hit Ctrl J, right? And then they're just joined together beautifully. Okay, so now if you go to edit mode, you can see we have both our geometries going on at the same time. So how do we connect this? Well, it is very easy because we already have pretty much the same geometry. What I'm looking at is this edge loop, right? It's basically a hexagon, and this geometry together, right? We have a hexagon too. So what I'm going to do is select this face, and I'm going to extrude that, scale that down a little bit, and I'm going to delete faces, right? So now we have a hexagon going to a hexagon. So now we can just select both edge loops, right mouse, and bridge edge loops. It's that easy, guys. It really is. Now we just have to worry about lining this up a little bit better. So we can hit Alt Z1 and just select this entire top part that is looking bumpy. Press G and X and move that forwards a little bit there. Beautiful. Now we can just do the same for this. SX. And this one too. SX. There we go. SX a little bit better there. And now we can just smoothen this out by selecting this one, for example, and pressing double G. Move that back a little bit. There we go. So this is basically your, what's it called? Like the, I don't know what it's called. The bump on the top of your back, I guess. And now we can just smoothen this out by double G-ing those vertices, right? Make sure you select them on both sides. And we can just smoothen that out step by step. Try to follow the geometry. All right, there we go. Now in front view we have quite the long neck, right? So what we're gonna do is go to edit mode and Alt Z and just select all of those edges, flip down, and do the same for this. Move it down, and then for the final bit, move it down too, right? So now we have an actual nice neck, and we actually may have it too long still. I mean, Stewie doesn't really have that much of a neck. So what I'm going to do is select this edge loop, right mouse, dissolve edges, and then I'm going to hold Alt Z, and select those top vertices and just move those all down more like that. Now I'm going to select this one, double G, right? I'm just smoothing out the geometry once again. Double G is an amazing thing to use for that. It will just smoothen out geometry, right? So this one too. There we go. This one is 2. There we go. And then just one, I'm going to move a bit more in. So we follow the geometry a bit more. Beautiful. All right. So let's see. I want to hit double G on this front one a bit more to follow that edge loop better. There we go. Right. This is looking decent for our starting geometry. Right. We have one mesh and we have the bending points we need, I think. And we have, well, we have a bit of much geometry in the air perhaps here. So let's fix that first. I'm going to select this one, right mouse, dissolve edges. And this one, dissolve edges, right? Everything you don't need, just dissolve it. This one is not needed that much. I think this one is not even needed that much. All right, this one adds a nice rounding. So let's just get back there. Let's see, right? So I'm already worrying about decreasing the geometry a little bit where I can. We have to do it here as well. I think we deleted this one. We deleted this one as well. Let's see. Yeah. This one. No, I think this one. Something like that. Well, not completely, but it's fine. All right, so this is Stewie now. So that was the video for today. This was the body part. And in the next one, we will focus on the clothing, how to create that, how to get to the materials, the rendering, stuff like that. So if you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe. Any one of those will make me incredibly happy. And I'll see you in the next one.